How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Good. A little
Good.
tired today, but I'm here.
Hey, can't complain then, right? I love it.
No, not at all.
And so, where are you located?
So I'm in South Florida. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I'm about 3 hours north of Miami, and
okay.
about that's about three. Yeah, and about I want to say 1 hour north of Palm Beach County.
Oh my
That
gosh.
reference.
You're in
So
I always love asking because that's like a really saturated, well, people would say like super saturated competitive market.
yes, yes.
So tell me
But
about your REI journey. Like, how'd you start and kind of what led to Deal Machine?
yeah, I just, one of these days, it came to me because in 2008, 2009, I kind of lost my shirt a little bit. And I always vowed, I said, next time I won't let this happen. I'm going to learn from it. So about maybe 3 years ago, I really just decided, let's just do this. And it was easy because my first opportunity was a seller finance opportunity with my mother-in-law. And she was moving out of the country. We were already managing it. So it was an underhand pitch, and from there I've scaled now to just 25 doors. So in 3 years.
Oh my gosh, 25? That's a lot.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So are you focusing more on building the portfolio? Do you do wholesaling? Do you do like a mixture of things?
A mixture. So at the beginning I thought about wholesaling, but it just didn't click with me, and for some reason I didn't have the infrastructure. I didn't know anything about DealMachine. So you know what? Let me just, I make a good income. I have a good retirement. I'm a chief at the fire department, so the income I have. So I figured, why don't I worry about some long term, wealth and opportunities? So
Well,
that's
thank
what.
you for doing what you do as a first responder.
Welcome. Thank you.
That's awesome. So you get your mother-in-law's door, and then do you just focus on the buy and holds then for a while, or
Yeah, so kind of the buying holes, burrs, everything I do is pretty much a burr. But
love?
yeah, I love the burrs. It just once you do one, you're just like, is this real? So yeah, and that's what I did with the deal from Deal Machine.
Oh yeah, tell me all about it.
So I tell you what, I love that app. Oh my God, it was almost a dream when I was watching your videos. It's so surreal seeing you on the other end. I'm used to seeing you on YouTube. So I'm like, there's no way this can't be real. And I got the intro plan at first, and I just could not see myself spending the 3 grand on the enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Let me do it. And when I did it, it gave me so much more access. Well, for this deal, I went to a local auction and happened to see a friend of mine there. And we were just talking, and we used to coach football together. And he mentioned, so what are you doing here? I said, well, this is what I do. Da, da, da. I'm always looking for ugly houses or overgrown houses because he was into the lawn maintenance. So he does, cutting grass.
Ooh.
So he said, I have a place and I think the guy wants to sell. I'm like, let's go. So this
Mm-hmm.
is how it was. I can still remember it. We drive over to his neighborhood and he points out to a house. Well, that house had a condemned sign on it, right? And the whole front of the house was caved in. Yeah.
Oh no. I mean,
So
oh yes, but oh no.
that's exactly right, right? Because I have the team now, so these things don't bother me like they used to. Back in the day, I would have ran screaming with, if I saw that. There's no way I could do that. Now, the uglier, the more problems, the better. So apparently, there was a domestic issue there, and a young lady tried to run her boyfriend over who was on the porch. She didn't run him over, but she connected with the house.
Oh wow, she did
Yeah,
not
yeah,
care. She was on a mission.
she was. She was trying to get him. Well,
Wow.
that so ultimately what happened is, when the fire department and police come, they determine that the house is, uninhabitable because it pretty much caved the whole front wall in, and they were worried about the integrity of the roof. And so they condemned it, which was a whole nother journey that I learned dealing with, not just in, the building department, but code enforcement, building department, all the different inspections and process you have to go through. But I tell you, I learned so much. So what I did to get back to the DealMachine, how I utilized the DealMachine app was I just snapped a picture. It was so easy that I'm like, there's no way the guy's gonna call me. No one's gonna call me. This is too real to be too good to be true. So I wrote it down here. I snapped a picture April 4th of this year.
Okay.
He texted me April 11th. I still remember I was walking the big lake with my wife, and we're just talking, and he texted me, hey, I got your postcard, and he sent a picture of the postcard. So I knew it was real. Because at that point, I was kind of like, are anyone receiving these things? I even sent myself of my house to see if I got it, and I did. Yeah, so he responded back to me, and right there as I'm walking the lake with my wife, we negotiated over text.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, initially he wanted like 35. He wanted out, and we ended up working it all the way down to 28. So I bought this single family for $28,000. That normally, in its current condition, if it wasn't for all the issues, would have probably been about, I'd say, $60,000. But now that I've completely rehabbed it, it's probably going to be worth about $120. So I mean, just killer. But even I still kind of underwrite less than that. So in my mind, I'm doing 100, and even at 100, it's still going to be an infinite deal. I'm going to pay my investor. I had a private investor come in, so I'll pay him, recoup all of my costs, and put a little money in my pocket. So, but all of this was possible because of DealMachine. Literally, I mean,
I love these calls because I just love hearing the different story, and I hear so many people say the same thing you just said of like, do these postcards actually go out? Like, am I going to? But it does. Like, that's just amazing that he even sent you the picture of it. So you're like, oh crap, like he actually, this is mine. He has it physically with him.
Yes, it was so surreal. I couldn't believe. April 4th, I sent it. April 11th, he contacted me. I closed May 7th.
Oh my gosh. So it took literally almost a month since you snapped the picture.
Yep. And that's all I did was snap the picture, correspond to GPS, and sent it off. It seemed too easy.
And you said you're going to be profiting about 100K. Is that what you said?
I'm sorry. That was the estimated value. So like the ARV after.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think on a conservative side, so say for instance, it is 100. I know it's going to be more. If it's 100, right, 80% LTV, I figured it'd be 80,000. And I'm all in at 76. And I'll tell you a story about that. So, and my investor is 60. So once I pay my investor off 60, I recoup that 16 that came out of my pocket, plus another 4,000. So it's an infinite deal. But I know that it's going to be more than the 100, but I like to underwrite a little conservative just in case I'm still making out.
Yeah, no, it's better to be safe than, be over the hill with things.
Correct.
But I do want to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I'm really curious. You talked about just so many hurdles you had to like overcome with this one. And I know we have a lot of people just starting out with this. Could you kind of speak to some of those that maybe would help people learn about, some of the things that might come up with that, like with the being condemned and everything, what you had to go through?
Yeah. So I would say just be prepared. Just know you're walking into problems, but like we said, the more problems, the greater the opportunity. So right. I think a mindset is huge before you walk in, because there will be times you want to pull your hair out. But one of the things, have a good contractor. If I didn't have my contractor in place, there's no way I would have pulled it off, because he took so much of my biggest problems and he just ran with it. Learning, you're going to get to know who the people are, the influencers are in the cities, or whoever's a building department, county. So I leveraged some relationships. My property manager is I guess she has good relationships with a lot of those folks because she does a lot of Section 8 and she works with the community a lot. So, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you make a phone call, push things through, you know? So, but networking is huge. Having that GC and just having that mindset when you go into these, because it's going to be challenging. But, you know, I think just making sure when you do negotiate the deal, make sure you budget more than what you expect. So take what you expect and probably add another, you know, the 10% or so, or 10,000, because I probably spent in addition, at least, probably 7,000 to 10,000 more. And part of that, more than half of that, were fees, just inspection fees. And then a lot of times when they come in, if you don't do things exactly the way they want, it's almost like they punish you on the back end. So they'll start nitpick. They'll nitpick here, nitpick there. And then, well, I need a permit for this. Well, I need, you know, and it just was, all right, no problem. We're going to get through this. And I knew I had so much meat on the bone that it didn't bother me. My GC was more worried than I was, you know. But just, you know, if you prepare for that, you know, it's great, because at the end of the day, I own a property that I put nothing. They paid me at the end of the day for this property. So it's amazing. And then my private investor got the benefit also, you know, so just wonderful. So basically I spent about $3,000 for the DealMachine and look what it got me in return. Oh my God.
And in the beginning, you're like, I'm not going to pay $3,000 for this technology.
No way. God, I tell you.
Do you have drivers? Like, do you have like a team of them, or?
So I started to do that, but with all my other occupations, I just couldn't really get it going. I do want to do that someday, but my first drivers were my kids. So I paid my kids. I signed them, you know. Unfortunately, they haven't gotten a deal. We've had some interest, but we haven't closed. So I started paying them hourly because I wasn't getting a deal. Wanted to keep them motivated, but now they're in college now. So, but when they
heck,
come
I'd
home,
still do it if I was in college. Shoot.
I got to work back on it. You know, I working on a different. My focus was somewhere else this year with the fire department. Obviously, with COVID and me being in the fire department, a lot of new changes and things. Then I also have another company that I've put a lot of focus in. So I kind of just push the pause button, but I do want to go back 2021 and kind of focus and see how I could optimize DealMachine even more so than what it's done for me already. The one deal, I'm good already this year.
I love it. I'm going to definitely connect you with our director of customer success, so that way you get the full, like the enterprise onboarding again to get y'all ramped up, because it sounds like your kids definitely could start driving again. I would be so over the moon if my dad was like, I'm going to pay you hourly, just go drive, find crappy houses. And then I feel like that's just amazing how you're teaching them. Like, it doesn't always just magically happen. Things fall through.
You're right. You're right. And they couldn't believe that I was paying them to drive. You know, listen to their music. And then they had good stories too. Dad, we were taking a picture and this lady came out and she was like, you know, what are you doing taking a picture of my house? And I already talked to her about some ways to diffuse situations. And so she was able to utilize those skills. And but it made for some good entertainment during dinner when we met. So
I will say, your story about the house, the lady running into the house to hit her boyfriend, is probably the best story I've heard so far about why a house is distressed.
Yes.
By far. The gentleman survived, I'm guessing?
He did.
Oh, that's good. Well,
and then they just left. So the previous owner, they just left. They stopped paying. They just bailed. Well, here's what's a motivation on his part. Besides the obvious, you know, it's condemned. He lived in Miami, right? So like 3 hours or more away. Well, he was in the entertainment business. And guess what South Beach was not doing? They were closed. So he was he was a musician. He would play at these different, fancy hotels and different things like that. He was, well, he couldn't do that. So he really needed to liquidate that and then get that headache out of his way and then put money in his pocket. So it was perfect, you know, it was a perfect scenario. So what a great guy too. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. And I think you just have such a good like aura about you that it's like, you can tell you network. I mean, you deal with people every day, you deal with the general public, but like networking, I think was what you said is so important. I mean, now how did you, not to keep like berating you with questions,
Oh,
but
hit me up.
I just keep hearing like DealMachine members in my head asking questions, but how did you find a good GC? Like, how did you find someone that you could depend on, that you know, depend on? That's basically the biggest thing.
I tell you, that is tough. And I like to consider myself fortunate, but it was always asking. So my first one I met was through, I'm a realtor also. I wear like 5 different hats.
I was about to say, my Lanta, Ricky, you are just everywhere.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. So it was my buddy who's also a realtor. He recommended a property manager for that very first property that I was telling you about that I bought from my parents-in-law, my mother-in-law. So he recommended his property manager, and then from there I was talking to her because that place needed a little sprucing up, and she recommended a guy, and he was phenomenal. So I started using him a lot more, but he was limited on some of the projects. He was more of an awesome handyman, but I needed someone that can move do big projects for me. And my kids are in travel, were in travel basketball. They're all adults now, but so I was talking to one of the coaches, and we were just talking about different things, and he was telling me how he became a master electrician, and I said, "Hey, you know a plumber?" He's like, "Yeah, this." So we exchanged numbers. I had tried the guy out on one job at another place of mine. Guy was awesome. So what I found is referrals are the best, and then when you get someone, give them a small job first, see how they do, pay them on time, and then see how responsive they are to you when you ask the next time. And it's been great. And sometimes it's just luck. You might have to go through 5 or 6 before you find someone, but when you find that person, take care of them and they'll take care of you. Don't haggle them. Don't beat them up over the prices. It's not about that short transaction. People forget they'll make a relationship transactional, and then that'll be good for one deal, and then that's it. But you want more of a transformational type of relationship, and I take care of them. I pay them on time, and I don't beat them up over their prices, and they become loyal, and we just become partners at that point. And so that's kind of how I found it. Was not linear at all. I mean, to get there, it was like jagged. We were, but once you find them, just recognize and take care of them.
I love that. I'm sure that now they know how you work, you know how they work, and then that just makes it very cohesive and smooth sailing, especially since you're so busy. You have to have somebody to depend on.
Yeah, I was a registered nurse also, and I had to drop that. So I couldn't juggle. That was one I had to drop, and I loved being a nurse. I was a nurse for 10 years. So I dropped that, but I picked up the investor and the realtor, and so I love staying busy because you know what all of those have in common is they help people.
Yeah.
And I think that's my default naturally, is to help people. And so,
I love your heart. It's so are you a paramedic then okay. I was about to say, if you went to nursing school, I would think that you aren't just an EMT. You're probably like,
yes.
paramedic.
Yes, I was a paramedic well, I'm still a paramedic, but that's not my primary function now. I'm what's considered a battalion chief. So I basically am in charge of a district in a sense. So in a 24-hour period, anything that goes on within that district, I respond to. So
You're big dog. You're the one driving in the SUV when
that's right.
I have a really good friend that's I learned so much. I learned some of the call numbers. I know what signal 10 is. I learned all the things. I'm like, oh, that it's signal whatever. Like they don't have their lights on. It's not super big.
Well, if you ever hear signal 20, someone's a signal 20, you know what that is?
No.
You might want to back away from that. Means
oh, definitely
so,
that. Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Did you say though you do 24 hours? You don't do 12s?
Yeah, so we do 24s. Most Florida departments do 24s. I know some Northeast, some of the bigger departments do smaller shifts, but we do 24 hours. So we work 24 hours on, 48 hours off. So I got off this morning, and I didn't go to bed until about 3 something. I had a big call at night. So that's why I'm kind of tired. I apologize.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Why you'd be a little zonked.
Yeah.
If you're in charge of an entire district and it's not like it's staying quiet out there. So
No.
but that's amazing. Thank you so much. I want to be very conscious of your time, but I hope you get some sleep today, and thank you so much. Please keep in contact. Tell me more if you know, and like I said, I'll introduce you to Brandy. And also I want to know, how many kids do you have?
I have 3.
3? Okay. I'm going to get you, your 3 kids and your wife some swag. And so I'll send you a link and just like put it all in the cart and it'll comp it at the end.
Awesome.
And
Better.
if you need anything at all, just let me know. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Pleasure.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.